Hello, this is Dave Hurwitz at ClassicsToday.com, here with a review of a new release from Audita Recordings in Germany. It's this, orchestral music by Liszt, still a rarity even in these days when everything seems to get recorded over and over again. It contains the Dante Symphony, the symphonic poem Tasso, Lamento e Trionfo, and a premiere, the Künstlerfestzug zur Schillerfeier, which basically translates into Artist Celebration for the Schiller Memorial. Now, as we all know, Liszt's orchestration is kind of a controversial subject. It tends to sound bombastic and screechy when it's loud, and the Künstlerfestzug sounds bombastic and screechy when it's loud. That's about all you need to say about it, except that it's 10 minutes long, and once you've heard it, you'll probably never need to listen to it again. Now let's get to the hot stuff. The Dante Symphony. Well, the Dante Symphony is a very problematic piece. It's in two big movements. The first, a big orchestral Inferno, and the second, a more mellow Purgatorio, ending with a Magnificat because, let's face it, Paradiso would be boring, just as it is in Dante. The problem with the symphony is always the Inferno. It's never infernal enough. It's a real issue. I mean, Liszt, as a composer, sometimes he's more fun to read or look at than he is to listen to. I happen to have the score here. And if you can see this particular passage, which I'm opening up here, I'm sticking it up here. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? There we go. See the little notes down here? There's like a little note there. Well, what that says, and I need visual aids for this, meaning reading glasses and a magnifying glass because these study scores are sort of hard to look at. Okay, what that says is, this entire passage is intended to be a blasphemous, mocking laughter, very sharply accented in the two clarinets and the violas. I mean, now, doesn't that sound juicy? I mean, blasphemous, mocking laughter and all that? Well, it just so happens that this performance is really, really good with the blasphemous, mocking laughter. It really sounds blasphemous and mocking. Well, mocking anyway. Blasphemous is a matter of interpretation, I suppose. But the problem is that the opening, where the brass are blasting away and everything's going hellishly hellish, it's a little tame, let's face it. Nobody plays it loudly or violently enough because to do so would be to be just vulgar and noisy. But the fact is, hell is vulgar and noisy, and the music that Liszt wrote for it is vulgar and noisy. The very end of it, I mean, if you can see it, you look at the score and you see, the bass drum's going wild, and you've got a tam-tam part where the guy's whacking away at the thing. You never hear it. You don't hear it here. They do add a wind machine, which the notes claim is the original scoring that Liszt added, but I have my score here. Maybe I'm not looking at a critical addiction. That's me, the critical addiction. I didn't see a wind machine in the score. Have you ever seen a wind machine? I mean, you know what they look like? It's a giant spool of thread with parachute material stretched over it. You turn this enormous crank and it makes this whooshing sound. Well, you can hear one in this performance. It's not particularly effective. But what is effective is all the soft bits, all the crazy harp glissandos, and like I said, the blasphemous mocking laughter. And interestingly enough, the Purgatorio movement and the concluding Magnificat are really, really beautiful in this performance. Very, very sexy and sensual, full of luscious sounds, and I actually enjoyed it more than the Inferno, which is rare because I'm kind of into the noise and vulgarity aspect of Liszt. And speaking of noise and vulgarity, we also get a very good performance of Tasso, the symphonic poem, which begins as a lament and ends with noise and hysteria. And it's really a very effective version. The timings are good. The pacing is good. The orchestra plays very well. The recording is excellent. Weimar Orchestra was Liszt's hometown orchestra. At the time, it was very small. It only numbered about 40 some odd players. And they apparently rehearsed in some basement somewhere where there was barely room for them to fit. So Liszt's own orchestration must have sounded even more bombastic and noisy and hellish and infernal than it does today in our large concert halls, even with larger orchestras. But I certainly can recommend this release for people who are interested in Liszt that isn't played all that often, which is most of him actually these days, especially in concert. And it's novel and it's very pretty. I just wish the Inferno was really, really infernal. It just needs more punch and more guts, but that's true of all performances so far of this symphony. Someday the reference recording will come along that will just blow us away, But until that happens, this will do very nicely. So thank you. Enjoy the recording, enjoy the other things that we've been talking about, and keep on listening, please.